Action! In this video, we're going to talk about stocks. Stocks is basically a flavored liquid that can be used instead of water to make soups and sauces. It's basically a foundation to good cooking. You can't make a good soup or sauce with a bad stock, so you have to make sure you have the best ingredients possible. Too many people try to treat the stock pot like a garbage can where they just toss all the trimmings. That will not give you a good stock. There are some general rules in making a good stock. What we need to do is find the right amount of bones, right amount of vegetables, the proper vegetables in the right amount of water, and we're gonna gentle heat to release all the flavors, some gelatin from the bones itself, and we'll have to try to remove the impurities each step along the way. In this first part of the video, we're gonna make a vegetable stock. It is important to know that vegetables lose their flavor pretty quickly. There's a point at which we have extracted all the flavors to the water and it begins to break down, making our stock cloudy. So we don't want that. Let's begin. In front of you, I have 3 onions, 1 leek, 2 carrots, a couple sprigs of parsley, thyme, and a bay leaf. So I'm just gonna peel the carrots. All the vegetables have been washed. So both for scraps and compost. Okay, I'm going to trim off the ends. Just going to give it a rough chop. Put it back in here. Also have my parsley. I'll just give it a rough chop. Put that here. And then clean our table a little bit. And then we're just gonna, for the leeks, I'm only gonna go to a certain part, which is roughly the green part. This is also gonna be for compost. I'm just going to roughly cut it again. And then for the leeks, if there's a little bit of sand or dirt, we just have to wash it once we cut it open. This goes in here like so. And then I also have my onions. Just get it cut. Cut that right in half. Same thing here. Gonna peel all the onion now. There you go. Just gonna clean my surface a little bit. Gonna trim that off, and then for all my vegetables, I'm gonna cut it smaller so that there's more surface area, so we can extract more of the flavor out. And I'm gonna put the sides down and put everything through the food processor. Okay. My surface is cleaned. I got rid of my cutting board and my knife, and in front of you now is my food processor. So I'm just gonna lock this in, put my blade in, and I'm gonna add all my vegetables in this food processor. Okay. Turn this off, and it's gonna make a loud noise. I'm just going to pulse it first, and I'm gonna just keep running that until I have small pieces of vegetables. So as you can see, it's pretty small now. We can move on to our next step. So in front of you we have a rondo, we have some oil, we have water, we have a wooden spoon, And then we also have a ladle to skim our impurities. I'm gonna turn on my induction. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil and let that heat up. So the oil is heated and I just added my vegetables. I'm going to soften my vegetables for 5 to 8 minutes. So after 8 minutes is up, I'm going to add my bay leaf, parsley, and thyme. And I'm going to add my water. Just to fill it up. So as you can see, the stock is starting to simmer now. What I usually do with the ladle, I'm just going to have a circular motion. I'm going to make a circular motion, and you can see some of the little bubbles and impurities will surface, and I'm just going to go around and collect it, and then I'm going to put it in this container. So after 45 minutes of simmering, I'm going to turn off my stove. Over here I have a chinois, which is a fine strainer. With a container, I'm just going to strain all my vegetables into here. Once it's cooled to room temperature, it goes into a refrigerator for a couple days, or we can freeze it right away for further use. So next, we're going to do a chicken stock. Chicken stock has a really light, neutral flavor that is very versatile in soup and sauce making. If you want a stock with more chicken flavor, you can simply just reduce the stock, or you can add more bones to it. So in front of you, we have onion, leek, carrot, and chicken wings. Typically we'll use chicken bones, chicken back, chicken necks, as well as chicken feet. So the chicken wings that we have been washed, rinsed out. We're going to add it to a pot of cold water, and we're going to bring them to a boil. So all that goes in. And again, typically I would use chicken bones, chicken back, chicken feet, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance to go to the grocery store, so we have some wings. But do not worry, I'm gonna take all the meat apart and we're probably gonna turn it into tacos. So it's in the cold water, I'm gonna bring it up to a boil. So we mentioned earlier in our first part of the vegetable stock video that we don't want to bring any stock to a boil. But in this case, we're going to boil the bones to release some of the impurities and fats, and then we don't want to boil it for too long. And at that point, we're going to try to skim everything as much as we can so that we have a better, clearer, better flavor stock. And again, we don't want it to bring it to a boil too long because it breaks down everything into smaller particles, and those particles will act as a sponge and you're going to soak up all the good flavors of the stock. So as you can see, some of the impurities are starting to float to the top as we're bringing the temperature higher and higher. At this point, we can start skimming some of the stuff off now as well. So look at that. Skim, skim, skim. See all the impurities coming out. Just gonna give this a stir so that there's more stuff coming up. You can even hold the pot to a side so that all the impurities should float to one area because of the direction of the heat. So skim, skim, skim. So now it's coming to a boil now. I'm gonna skim one last time. And then what I wanna do now is, skim a little bit more. As much as I can. And then now I'm gonna add the ice. So the role of the ice is to set the chicken fat or any type of fat right away so we can skim it off. And then next we're going to add our aromatics. So we're going to add our onions, our carrots, and notice this is cut a little bit bigger than our vegetable stock because we're going to allow more time for the water, the heat to extract so that we don't have to cut them as small. So after adding our aromatics, we're going to turn up our heat again. And we're going to try to simmer our stock for 30 to 40 minutes. And then in between all that, we're going to try to skim off any impurities we see as well. Now remember, we want to gradually increase our temperature of the stock if we don't want it too high for various reasons. Flavor, clarity, and yield. So after 45 minutes of simmering and skimming, I'm just going to turn off my induction. I'm just going to let it settle and rest for 10 minutes. In that 10-minute period, what's going to happen, any impurities or extra particles that would have been broken down is going to start to sink at the bottom, and it's going to give you a clearer stock. So after 10 minutes has passed, so hopefully most of the impurities will sink to the bottom now. At this point, I'm just going to ladle my stock into this container with a strainer. So I have reached at the bottom of the pot. I'm just going to leave the stuff at the bottom alone. I'm going to let this stock cool to room temperature, and I'm going to put this in the fridge. I'm going to sort this out so I can use this chicken for something else. So next we're going to make a beef stock by blanching the bones. The bones and the cow's foot have been washed, rinsed of any impurities. Now I'm going to put this same thing what I did with the with the chicken. I'm going to put it in cold water. And then I'm going to slowly bring it up to temperature. I'm going to bring it up to a simmer. So I'm adding all my bones in. And I do not want to stir. I just want to gently place it in there. And I'm going to slowly bring this up to temperature. Same thing what we've done with the chicken stock. We're going to skim any impurities along the way. So it's somewhat hard to see in terms of the stock because we don't have enough liquid, and the way that the chai pot is situated, you can see there's a little bit of impurities and scum. I'm just going to continue to take this off, even though I'm not going to use this liquid because I'm just blanching the bones. I still want to get rid of most of this as much as I can whenever I can. And again, I'm just using a pair of tongs and I'm moving the bones in different directions so that more impurities will flow up. So the water is starting to simmer now. All I'm doing at this point, I'm just going to remove the bones. I'm going to rinse this and I'm going to discard the water. So for the beef stock with blanched bones, we have blanched our bones, we have rinsed it off, and now we're just going to add everything into a pot. So I have my bones, I have carrots, onions, leek, bay leaf. With something like a beef stock, we can also add parsley, thyme, tomatoes, and tomato paste. Just give it a stir. I'm going to turn on the induction. I'm going to slowly bring it up to a simmer. I'm going to skim along the way, and I'm going to simmer for another 6 to 8 hours. So after 6 to 8 hours of simmering, we turn off our stove. We're going to let all the particles settle in the bottom, and we're going to strain the stock in the exact same manner we did with the chicken stock. So after 10 minutes, just as what we've done before, we're just going to strain this stock. I'm going to try not to strip the bottom part. We're going to go as far as we can to the bottom. So after 10 minutes, we're just going to ladle our stock into the steam wall. In this last part of the video, we're going to make a beef stock by roasting the bones. So what I have here is some marrow bones. I'm going to toss in a little bit of oil. I'm just going to give it a rub. I'm going to put this on a roasting pan. It's going to go into the oven at 400 degrees until it's nice golden brown. It should take maybe an hour or so. So this is going to go into the oven. So after the bones have been roasted at 400 degrees for an hour, we remove them from the roasting pan and put it in a stainless steel bowl. After that, we took a roasting pan onto the stove. We added some cold water to deglaze the pan, and some of that liquid is going to go into our stock. Same as before, we're going to add our bones into our water. We have our onion, carrot, and leek. We have tomato, thyme, parsley, as well as our bay leaf. We're gonna have our tomato paste. And last but not least, we're gonna add our water from the pan that we tried to deglaze. We're going to turn on the heat, we're going to slowly bring it to a simmer, we're going to skim along the way, and we're going to simmer for 6 to 8 hours. So after 6 to 8 hours of simmering, we turn off our stove, we're going to let all the particles settle in the bottom, and we're going to strain the stock in the exact same manner we did with the chicken stock.